I was really frustrated for a long time. So I would, for years, assess people for free because I just wanted to learn stuff. And I would write out their corrective exercise and all these other things. And it's like, why are you not getting better? Like, you're supposed to get better. Like, you're doing a Turkish get up. You should have more mobility now. I was told you would.
You're listening to the Restoring Human Movement podcast, where movement experts discuss the latest evidence-based practices to help you and your clients move with mastery. And now, your host, Dr. Sebastian Gonzalez.
All right, so that was an intro right there with Michael Bann. It's Coach Michael Bann. Did I say band? Bann, B-A-N-N, that's double N. You're going to learn a lot from this podcast today. And if you are a clinician, a PT, a DC, an athletic trainer, a coach, or an athlete who wants to know more than just the basics of like lifting mechanics and movement and things like that, you're going to get a ton from this. Michael Bann he's an interesting dude. I sat across from him at dinner one time at a conference, and we were there at dinner probably for like 3 hours or so, and like I always like the after part of these conferences where you go out and like mingle and stuff, and I feel like you get a lot more information that's not always in presentations, but also figure out what other people are doing. So Michael came up with, he literally blew my mind like 3 times that night, and I thought I got to have him on and talk to him, and that was months ago, and he does not disappoint me in this. So we go into quite a few different topics today. Number one is he is big on checking the microbiome with people to check out performance, or things that will suck the performance out of your sport or your lifting or whatever it might be, but also things that can decrease your overall well-being. Microbiome has been attributed to systemic disease, cancers, things of this nature as well. But also too pain. So I think it's interesting that he goes into that people who have great movements don't always get hurt, and people who have bad movements, people with bad movements don't always get hurt, and people with good movements sometimes get hurt. So what's the correlating factor here? What's the difference here? So if you're a clinician, you're going to like that in regards to just kind of making you think a little bit more. He definitely made me think. We go into feces and what basically your going number 2 can tell you about your microbiome. We go into Dragon Ball Z, Disney, and a bunch of variety of different things. So this was a fun one to go into today. By the way, you're listening to the Restoring Human Movement podcast. If you've listened to all my other podcasts before number 91, actually before what was that number that we started in the new thing? It was 91. So this one is actually number 95. So if you're looking for the show notes on this, go to p2sportscare.com. We have a pretty elaborate search function there. You can just type up Michael Bann with 2 N's or podcast 95. It'll probably show up. But all the show notes, we're going to transcribe it as well. So if there's anything that you didn't get because you're out walking your dog or working out right now, go through there and you just have it all after. That's why I get it for you guys. Now, before we go into the actual interview, I've been trying to make it a point to share some short stories about my life just so you can get a better idea of who your host is. The one thing that if you hang out with me, or another thing that if you hang out with me, you'll realize that I absolutely love pistachios. And actually this last year for Christmas, I got, 5 3-pound bags, I think is what they sell at Costco. 5 3-pound bags of pistachios. So I got 15 pounds of pistachios for Christmas. And my sister thought it was a joke. She's like, you can't, she's like, what do you want for Christmas? And I sent her a picture of a bag of pistachios. She thought it was a joke, so she just got a bunch of pistachios. My parents got me pistachios. But those things I put in the car, and if you watch one of the YouTube videos I did on how to lift objects, I was lifting a bag of pistachios because it was what I found in my car. My car is just littered with pistachio, I don't want to say shavings, they have that skin on them, but it's always there. I have a red Solo cup in the center console, and I just eat these pistachios on my drives, and it makes driving fun, honestly. And I don't know if you've been on long drives or not, and if you have, sunflower seeds seem to work, pistachios seem to work, but they're great. I love pistachios, and I would probably say Out of anyone I know, I've eaten more pistachios over the last month than probably that you have in 2 years. I go through about a 3-pound bag of pistachios about probably once every 2 to 3 weeks. Depends on how much I drive, really, because I don't eat them anywhere else because they get a little bit too messy. So I do get my car cleaned every once in a while on the inside just because of the pistachios mainly. Without any further chit-chat from me or storytelling, we're going to go into the interview with Coach Michael Bann. And I want to thank you guys again for sharing this podcast with someone else who you think will get benefit from this information. Here we go. All right, everyone, we have on Michael Bann. I almost said Dr. Michael Bann, actually. Hey, Michael.
Hello.
How's it going?
Not a doctor yet, but will be one day.
What are you going to be?
I'm going to be me.
The doctor, the PhD, or the
yeah. So I will start my prereqs next year for basically med school, where I'll be going off to Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, ideally. But I'm also looking at Bastyr. But yeah, naturopathic medical doctor. So I finished my graduate degree this year in kinesiology. And then I'm off to study medicine afterwards, and then maybe a PhD. We'll see how burnt out I am. So
do you anticipate being burnt out immediately, or just are you going to take some time off in the middle? I know that you have a great ability to tune people out and just keep working.
Yeah, you did see that, didn't you? I think for me, I'll eventually get more curious and I'll be like, all right, why is this working? And then I'll have to go get a PhD or something to investigate it. So I think it won't be a waiting, like, because I'm burned out. I think it'll be like, all right, I learned all this. I'm going to go figure out how to apply it. And then I'm going to get a bunch of questions. And then it's going to be like, wait, why does that work? And then no one is going to have the answer potentially. So I'll just try and figure it out. And that's my nature. But I could see myself going to school to get a PhD after I have my medical degree.
You never thought just investigating things that you kind of already assume are true, like the sky is blue for X, Y, and Z reasons, and just kind of that's the end of it, and just, not have to think much? Or
it's just not how I work, man. I'm like a toddler. I'm a professional toddler.
Well, so just for everyone listening, by the way, so I've been trying to do a better job of framing this for people, or framing it for the audience. I'm anticipating, so I think the audience is mainly chiropractic students, PT students, ATCs, and of that nature. There are some lay public that get a hold of these, which is fine. So I might clarify a couple common terms, but for the most part, I feel like you got a lot of value to give the clinical professional. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. So you brought up the idea of talking about microbiomes and performance versus pain presentation. Sound right?
Yeah, that sounds like something I would say.
That sounds like I should just go back on that text on Instagram thread.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, my thoughts when we were chatting at that time was just thinking about like, hey, we tend to be very binary with our thoughts, where it's like, hey, performance is movement, and there's obviously a huge component to performance with biomechanics because there's optimal levels of biomechanics, but what else goes into that, right? So where my brain was just going when we were chatting on that one was like, hey, if people are too sympathetically toned up and they're just like walking around like giant, power lifters, like, and they're just tight like this all day long. I don't know if the audience can see me or not.
I know this will be YouTube based too later.
Okay, cool. So they'll be able to see me eventually.
They'll be able to see you.
Yeah. So like you think about people who get super sympathetically toned up, they can't calm down, and they're just super tight. And that changes biomechanics. But how about we change the autonomic nervous system through all of its various potential inputs, and people get better? So like I just got done with a consult with a client right before you and I hopped on, and she's like, I can't touch my toes. Can you give me some flexibility drills so I can touch my toes? And I was like, hey, go lay on the ground and breathe for a few minutes and then try and touch your toes. And she was like, she had to recheck it. She was like, oh, wait, I can touch the ground. And she like, you could see her, and she gets up and she's like, no way. And she does it again. And you could see like there was a little bit of disbelief, because we're taught as strength coaches, like mobility WOD this and yoga this and Pilates this and all these stretches and mobility drills. And it's great, but where my brain goes with it was like, well, why? What are we really impacting? Like what system in the body are we truly changing? And then how can we do that in other ways? Because not everybody is going to go spend 30 minutes a day doing mobility walk. And that's fine. Like some people don't want to do that. Some people need to chew their food more and then they get more mobile or they have more flexibility because they chewed their broccoli.
I knew you were going to bring up that chewing thing really quickly here.
Totally. I'm a huge proponent of it. You got to chew 25 times per bite. You don't chew, like, how are you going to absorb stuff, you know? Like, it's just a stressor on the system.
So rather than having to, like, count your chews, is there, like, a song that you would hum to completion in your head, and that would be enough chews?
No, I would just tell people to put their fork down every bite.
Oh, I like that, too.
Yeah.
So then, just going back a little bit to that lady then, how come, do you notice that people just inherently want to go back to some type of mechanical correction, or is it, I mean, it's not that far-fetched at this point, you know? I feel like most clinicians kind of recognize it, but does the public just kind of not get it, or they just not want to believe it?
I think it's a mix of both, to be honest. I think from a mechanics point of view, like it's just like Occam's razor, like the simplest explanation tends to be right. And so when we think about like, oh, my hamstrings feel tight, so I just need to stretch them and elongate them. But we forget that it's not such an easy system. So sometimes people just don't want to believe it. Sometimes people are so bought into a certain like dogma. I think sometimes it's also even tribal. Like people are like, I'm going to be a PRI guy. I'm going to be a DNS guy. And it's because we want to belong. We want to wear the shirt that says like PRI, and we want to be like left AIC. Everybody's a left AIC unless they're a bilateral obesity. And it's just like, oh no, but would they have superior T4 syndrome? Or it's no, they don't ever sit down to eat and chew their food and smell and sleep.
So I wish I would have actually had a video of it. So because we ate dinner across from each other in Colorado where we met. I think you had like a dumpling soup or something like that, and a burger. I wish I would have videotaped you chewing.
Yeah, and I had like 4 beers or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. You didn't chew your beer. Do you got to chew your beer?
No, not at all. You sip it, you enjoy it. You don't chew it. This is not undergrad.
Yeah. You know, by how many times I've after listening to your stuff so far, I've heard you talk about chewing. You should just on your Instagram just only do chewing of you.
Just me chewing and taking.
Just selfies chewing.
Yeah. If I do that, I'm gonna tag you for sure.
I want it. I want it bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's where you'll see over the next 15 to 20 years, people are going to start recognizing, you know, how important the stuff outside of the clinic or outside of the gym really is. Because, you know, when you do the math, let's say like for performance, because that's really where I live. I live in the world of trying to improve performance, but I also deal with a lot of chronic pain. So in the performance world, you're spending maybe 10% of your week training, maybe. Right, at least in my world with performance. And so 90% of your week is spent sleeping, breathing, chewing, not chewing, eating, whatever, like family time, et cetera. So we've got to focus more on the majority of things. And I think because we tend to feel like we have, you know, big educations, master's degrees, doctorates, we tend to place ourselves kind of high up in like the importance list. But in reality, it's tough, especially for new clinicians and new coaches, but we tend to think that we're more important. And so we think that our program designs are actually that important, or our corrective exercises or our systems are more important, when we just got to realize that it's got to make the client feel good or the patient feel good. But we got to make sure that they take care of everything outside of the clinic or outside of the gym. And then when it comes to pain being so incredibly complex, you know, it's too complex to assume that a simple, you know, 7-month oblique is the reason why you have back pain. Because you don't do 7-month obliques, you have back pain. It's like, I don't think back pain is because of a 7-month oblique deficiency.
Mm-hmm. Do you usually, when you get someone like a fresh client, do you usually start with a biomechanical approach, or do you think about that 90% first?
So, I mean, honestly, I think of the nervous system always. I think of specifically the peripheral nervous system. I think there's a lot of people out there that are talking about the CNS, and there's merit to that. But every single person I work with, whether they're chronic pain or whether they're performance, I think of the peripheral nervous system, which also includes the autonomics. So I think of that, and I think of what implicates that, or not implicates, but what impacts that. And so if we're doing back squats and we have horrible biomechanics, suboptimal biomechanics for back squatting, that's a stressor. I'm a horrible deadlifter, but I'm a great squatter. And so I could squat 405 for 3, 4, 5 reps, get up. Metabolically, I'm tired, but my brain wasn't rattled. But trying to deadlift 315 for a few reps, that rattled my brain. So I would need like 5 minutes of rest versus 2 minutes of rest. And so when I look at biomechanics, I think that's massively important for performance just because physics. But when it comes to, actually allowing the nervous system to do and be balanced, if we're doing a ton of movements that are not biomechanically efficient for us, that does take more energy. And I think there's a time and place for that. But if we're dealing with people that are in pain or anything like that, that could be what sets, off somebody's pain levels. So, I just did it the other week to a guy, and I didn't need to, but he did some front squats and he's all sorts of erect right now. So to me, I'm like, all right, like mechanically, it was great. He didn't move in a way that would make me think he hurt anything, but whatever it was, it stressed his system and threw him overboard. And now he's like, bro, I feel horrible right now. Mm-hmm. So we don't do front squats anymore. We're going to do box squats because he's actually more comfortable doing back squats and box squats. So I do look at biomechanics. I think they're incredibly important, but I also don't think they're the end all be all.
Yeah. So when you differentiate it into central versus peripheral, are you talking about then like peripheral neurology in regards to, like, to say the divisions after they come out of the IVF? Or are you talking about like just autonomic, sympathetic, parasympathetic? Is that actually peripheral? It is peripheral. It's outside the spine, huh?
Yep. That's how I explain it, at least. Yes, I do look at the autonomics. I don't check HRV with every single person, but just trying to keep that in the back of my head of, hey, if you're doing back squats and you squat like a dog trying to go outside, maybe that's not the best movement for you, and maybe that's a stressor, or maybe your femur length is the wrong length for that type of squat. So we've got to find something else to not stress the system too much. But then I also think of, like, hey, you are limited in this specific movement because you actually have some adverse neural tension. Mm-hmm. So I was dealing with somebody today who was like, I just can't seem to get like my shoulder in the right place. It feels really weird. So I put them on the table and I was like, oh yeah, your ulnar nerve is like screaming because your neck. Let's do this. And then we took care of, proximal stuff, neck, cervical stuff. And then she was like, wow, I feel like I have more mobility. And then she was able to do the movement and she felt great.
Yeah, I think watching you on YouTube is going to be entertaining for people.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, you get the movements going on. I'm kind of limited by this microphone by me. I've made a mistake in hitting it quite a few times before. So just tangent question on that is then that, so you went into a little the peripheral neurology, non-sympathetic or parasympathetic. When you have someone who doesn't have any of those restrictions with say the ulnar nerve or the sciatic nerve or any of that stuff, neural tension, then, so if you have them just being gassed out by deadlifts like what you would, is there a way to mitigate that risk or fatigue of the autonomic system while they're actually lifting?
Yeah, there is. Well, yes, there is, but it depends on their goals, right? So everything that I do, at least, is outcome based. So it's whatever they're looking for. Let's say you want to be an Olympic lifter. Snatch deadlifts are in your program. I don't know what to tell you, but you have to be able to snatch if you want to compete. And if you're not good at that deadlift and it crushes you, too bad. Pick another goal. So there's one of those where it's like, hey, that's part of your job. But if it's not, like, let's say you're just trying to play, football. Maybe I pick a different deadlift. Maybe I go with a chop bar deadlift. Maybe we pull from the blocks. Maybe we just do RDLs. Maybe we do single leg stuff. I've seen a dude do 315-pound single leg deadlifts for 10.
Damn.
So I know we can use the bilateral deficit to our advantage as well without inherently overloading the system. Mm-hmm. So, it's going to come back down to the outcome. If you're a power lifter, you have to deadlift even if they hurt.
Have you ever told anyone then that if their system just doesn't like that movement and they pick that sport, just tell them, I strongly suggest you just change sports and passions?
No, that doesn't go over too well. Telling an endurance runner that's like telling an endurance runner that's 230 pounds, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be an endurance runner. Maybe you should be a sprinter. Like, but I love endurance running. All right, fine, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to tell them not to, but I will give them good expectations. Like, hey, based on the last 10 years of doing this, having seen this so many times, you're probably just not going to be a great deadlifter. But let's make your squat super strong so your total is fine. Mm-hmm. So, you have to have realistic conversations. You can't sugarcoat it, but you can't be a dick, Like, you gotta, it's a human profession. Like, we're people. Like, it's a people profession. You can't just be like, you're not 5'3". You're not meant to be an Olympic lifter. You're not Chinese. Sorry. You can't do that. People want to do stuff, and you got to find a way to make it work. Yeah.
But I always wonder that too, like, with their, like, what are their end all goals with it? Like for all we know, like, some of these people, they get into they get into lifting sports, but it was really just because they wanted a six pack. And couldn't you just transition them, right?
Yeah, that's a tough one to do because most of the time that's a subconscious value structure that they're not aware that they have. So I've had this conversation countless times with clients in my office where they come in and they're like, well, I want to lose weight. Okay, why do you want to lose weight? Well, because I need to. Well, why do you need to? And then lo and behold, they're like, I want to do CrossFit because I want to lose weight. Because if I don't lose weight, I can't get a boyfriend. And if I can't get a boyfriend, I can't get married or have kids. So I really want to have kids. So I want to lose weight. And you can't just throw that at them on day one. I've made that mistake where I was like, you don't want to lose weight. You just want to get married. And that's on day one. And they're like, no, I can't. No. And too soon. So it's a relationship building thing, which I think is where coaches arguably in some cases have the ability to do that better than clinicians. Because at the end of the day, like, if you have the same patient for 4 years for knee pain, not too sure you're really helping them. So coaches, like Jeff Barron, for example, Dr. Barron, he's a physical therapist that is about 5 minutes from me. He'll send people to me when he's done with them. And that's, how it works. Like, it's continuation. And when people are out of my scope, I send to him. Mm-hmm. But I have the capacity to talk to these people every single day because they're in the gym, whereas they may not be in the clinic every single day for 2 hours.
Right.
So as the relationship deepens and trust is earned, not just given, but earned, clients eventually open up and they're like, hey, yeah, actually, kind of, don't want to do this CrossFit thing. I kind of thought you were going to be upset at me if I chose not to do CrossFit and just do Olympic lifting. And then, as the coach or whoever, the clinician, coach, whatever, you got to be able to not judge that. And it has to be transparent that they can come to you like that. And then you can be like, yeah, awesome. You want to do just weightlifting and some curls and calf raises? Let's go.
Yeah. Calf raises and curls. I'm pretty sure we can get away with a lot less injuries like that, right?
Yeah. You can superset them. I'm telling you right now, it saves a lot of time. While you're doing the calf raise, you're doing the bicep curl and then it works.
Yeah. Well, it almost looks like you're just trying to be a Dragon Ball Z character right now. You're just like ramping up like that, dude.
Well, I'm not going to take 47 episodes to go Super Saiyan. I'll do it a lot faster.
Wait, is that how long that? Wait, was there actually that many episodes of Dragon Ball Z?
Wait, first of all, you have to go watch all the episodes now because Dragon Ball Z is the best thing ever for cartoons. Yeah, dude, there's hundreds of episodes, and they just finished up Dragon Ball Super, which is the new series as well. I'm a huge nerd. Yeah, sorry.
Well, what is this about? I've seen pictures of it and a couple of small animations, and I've seen that kid in a park in that YouTube video who's just losing his mind. Have you seen?
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen? So
later today.
Yeah, it's great. Like, just the passion. And this kid's like 10 years old, just like he's ramping up like 3 different times, like losing his shit. But no, I've never actually seen it.
I've never seen it. Yeah,
you need to see it. Like, you'll lose your mind.
I love it. I love Dragon Ball Z. I grew up on that stuff.
So what is the backstory of Dragon Ball Z? I'm curious.
Well, Dragon Ball Z is based on the cartoon Dragon Ball. So Dragon Ball, Goku, he's basically this alien kid with a tail who's a Saiyan. And then he grows up and does all these cool things. And then the next series, Dragon Ball Z, happens. And Dragon Ball Z is basically a continuation of Dragon Ball. If throughout Dragon Ball Z, he like completely changes his power levels. Like he powers up, and every time he comes across a new challenge, he basically overcomes it. And he's excited for every challenge. And he'll even say it in the series. He's like, I don't know why I'm excited to fight you. I could die, but I really want to fight you. And then he powers up and he constantly wins, except for one fight where his son actually won, Gohan. But then after that, it went back to Goku being the hero. And then in Dragon Ball Super, it's like 15 something years after Dragon Ball Z. It's great, dude. You got to watch it.
Wait, so is this really a cartoon that has a monologue in the middle? Like he's thinking to himself or speaking to himself in the corner before he beats people up? He's so deep.
I mean, that's a really oversimplified way of looking at it. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of it, I guess. Yeah, totally.
Okay. I will watch a couple Dragon Ball Zs and get back to you.
Great. Everyone is going to know how nerdy I am now. Fantastic.
Wait, so besides Dragon Ball Z, what is the other type of t-shirt that you would wear?
The other type of t-shirt?
Yeah, because I know you got a Dragon Ball Z t-shirt probably.
No, I don't have a Dragon Ball t-shirt, actually. I should have.
Yeah, why not?
Because I'd never thought to buy one, I guess. I don't know.
If I said the words up, down, left, right, AB, AB, start, what would you think?
It's ABA, a select start.
Oh.
I get 30 lives.
Is that Contra?
Yeah. Yeah, man. But you got to hit select start because you'd mess that up.
You're right. There was actually recently last year I went to, I was staying somewhere and someone's Netflix was already on the TV, so I wanted to put my Netflix on and it was in Spanish and I can't read Spanish. So I'm like, how the hell do I log out of this thing, right? So I go on to Google and check it out, and literally to get out of it was you take the little thing and you do up, down, left, right, and I'm like, you got to be shitting me. Like, so that's what it was. It logs you out. It worked.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So tangent back a little bit. So I remember we were eating. I asked you about this, and you actually blew my mind with it. I was thinking about it later. So we were talking about the dynamic systems theory. So dynamic systems theory is external stimulus to create a change in movement that's not necessarily wrong, in so many words, right? Mm-hmm. And you brought up the internal stimulus.
Yeah.
Would that be the biome that you want to lead into?
Yeah, so I still think that's external to the central nervous system. So I mean, when I think of like dynamical systems theory, I think of we don't inherently have a pre-programmed, concept of motor learning. Where like, if I was to tell you to pick up, your coffee mug, and you had no thumb, you would still figure out a way to do it because the environment has now changed because you have no thumb. But if I also gave you a thumb, you could change the movement again. So that's one way of looking at it. I also think of, what influences movement could be tightness, pain, whatever. So if I have an injury and I have pain, that can change motor control. But if I have no injury, but I still have pain, that can change motor control as well. Well, we know that, digestive stuff can cause joint pain. That's inflammation. So let's say you have some form of microbiome assault or insult to the microbiome. Let's say, like for me, for example, I went to Egypt in January to teach, and I ate some of the local food, and I definitely got a little sick, and I did a stool analysis, and there's some stuff in my gut, and it's not healthy for it to be there. And I did have some level of pain. And so by changing that, or basically killing it, quote unquote, pain levels went away, and now I can move in a comfortable way again. So it isn't inherently going to be just about external cues or external environment. It could be RNT, like reactive neuromuscular training. That could be the external environment that changes movement. It could be how I might word something when I'm thinking about how to change movement. I might tell you, hey, do your high knees like you're at the beach trying to step out of the water. That gives context to the person so they know what I'm trying to accomplish versus just, hey, get your knees up. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, maybe your hip hurts in flexion because you have inflammation. And by getting rid of inflammation, your hip no longer hurts. And now you can do high knees without me having to coach you, all up and down the turf. Mm-hmm. So when I think of like movement and systems, I don't think of it as in, isolation. Like I don't think in very binary terms like that. I don't think just this or that, but I'm trying to think always in the gray. And I think the immune system really does, in a way, play a role with movement. I don't have any like peer-reviewed studies to say like, hey, your TH cells are here, so your back squat's going to look like this. I don't have studies to show that, but I have seen people change their white blood cell levels and their body feels better, and then they move better. I've seen that quite a bit. So again, I don't have the, literature to back that, but from the anecdotal, which of course is not synonymous with evidence, but I've seen it enough times to know something is there, like something. I don't know what it is yet, but I can tell you that if you get a better immune system, we tend to recover better from training. We tend to see more improved mobility. And when we have more improved mobility, we tend to naturally just find a good groove or a good pattern to work within. Mm-hmm. So I actually first heard that from Anna Hartman 3-something years ago when I went to Craig Liebenson's conference that's out here in Arizona at Exos. And I remember talking to Eric Dannenberg, who's a phenomenal strength coach with Exos. He's their performance manager at the Phoenix Center here. And we had been chatting back and forth, and I was like, yeah, there's something to do with the gut. And Eric was obviously at the conference because it's Exos. Mm-hmm. And Anna said it. And then Eric was like, yo, like, that's kind of what you were saying, right? And I was like, yeah, man, like, that's cool that other people are starting to see that. So from like the enteric nervous system, how it also is implicated in movement, I'm still not 100% on the why or the how, but I've seen it enough times to know that there's some sort of connection there. And it's so complex per person that I don't think we can ever say it's this. Mm-hmm. Because for me, it could be my parasite. For someone else, it could be that they have celiac and they don't know it and they keep eating bread with gluten, right? And then that causes pain and then they just don't want to move a certain way, et cetera. So I know something is there, but I can't tell you exactly how it's there yet, which is where thinking again, after I finish med school, maybe down the road, I'll get really curious and just go get a PhD to figure something out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Actually, that would probably be a good route for that. Either that, or we can all just trust your observations because you're a Dragon Ball Z fan.
You can't go wrong with the Dragon Ball Z fan. That's like a scientific fact.
Yeah.
There will be a study out there on that. I'll get a PhD in that.
Yeah. Was there a correlation between people thinking the immune system health and lifting was in correlation with their fanatic nature of Dragon Ball Z?
I don't know. Now the word is out. I have a Dragon Ball Z coffee mug that as I pour my hot coffee into it, it like changes colors and it gets all like powered up. It's great.
I thought you were going to say you had a costume. It's just one coffee mug and costume. I was like, yes, he's going to have a costume. I can't wait.
No. Maybe next Halloween. Maybe I'll go keto and get super lean. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't go keto. I would eat a lot of carbs.
You would dominate the carbs, I'm sure. You would chew the shit out of those carbs.
100%.
So then how would a coach or clinician really be able to identify a possible correlation between those two? If they have someone sit in front of them, if they have hip pain, how would they know to look?
Well, I think you have to run through your own, your process, your, checklist. So you got to rule out the red flags, obviously. And again, I'm not a clinician yet, at least. I'm a strength coach. So my checklist will be a little bit different than like what yours would be, or like what Jeff Barron's would be, or what Dr. Snell, or, anything like Dr. Ramos, any of those guys. My checklist is slightly different, but I will ask questions that probe. Like I'll ask about sleep. Like, hey, how many hours of sleep do you get a night? Awesome. When do you go to bed? When do you wake up? How many times a night do you wake up? Why do you wake up? If you're waking up at 2 a.m. every day, that's not normal. Something's there. Do I know what it is? No, I don't. When your blood pressure is high, I don't know why it's high. I just know it's high. It's like the FMS. I have no idea why you move that way. I just know that you're presenting like this based on some guy telling me on a napkin that I'm supposed to move this way.
On a napkin.
I'm pretty sure that's what he told me when I asked him like years ago when I went through the FMS, because him and Lee Burton taught my FMS.
Yeah.
And I was 23 or something like that. And I asked them, and I'm pretty sure they said that they like figured it out on a napkin, which is pretty cool.
I think that was the mobility stability thing, I think. I thought it was, like the alternating joint system, I think.
Yeah, regional interdependence.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just think like in terms, I don't know where I was going with that one because then I got sidetracked as soon as I said napkin. Where was
Yeah.
I going?
Oh gosh, you were going to. There's something wrong there. You woke up at 2 a.m. There's something
Yes,
wrong.
screen. Yeah. So like, I don't know why, but I just know that you shouldn't be doing that. So that's something that I put in the back of my mind, or I write it down as a note, and I just hold on to that for now because I can't just dig into just that. So it's similar to blood pressure. I know it's high. I don't know why. I just know that at some point I'm going to either have to refer that out, or I'm going to have to like give you nutritional guidance that might help you with your blood pressure or whatever. So that's one of the things that I do is I ask a ton of probing questions. I also go into bowel movements with every single client.
Like together, like in neighboring stalls.
No. That's called over-delivering. I'm absolutely not going to over-deliver that much. I've had clients, though. One of my clients, when we ordered a stool test, he actually sent me a photo of his stool. And I was like, dude, I didn't need photos of your stool, man. You just have to send me just send the report in and let me see what's in there.
Maybe you wanted to see, he thought you'd want to see the stool in its natural environment.
I have no idea. To this day, he's like, I don't know. He's in the military, so you know how like sometimes they're just like, here you go. I still have him as a client. He's a great client. He's a great dude, and every chance I have, I'll make fun of him for it.
Do you still have the picture?
No, absolutely. Actually, no, I don't.
You don't put them on your refrigerator under the magnets?
No. I don't put magnets on my refrigerator. That's weird.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have kids or anything. Like, well, I don't have to like put up homework or A pluses on my fridge.
Well, what do you do with the magnets when you get them? Someone sends you magnets.
No.
No one sends you any magnets, really?
Yeah. Why would somebody send me magnets? Who does that?
Like bottle openers. No one sent you a bottle opener magnet or something like that.
Why would I get a bottle opener magnet?
I have them. I have a bunch of magnets all over my thing. They're not from like places I visited. They're like someone will send out like a wedding invite, or sorry, not the invite, the save the date, and then it's a magnet.
Yeah. Well, apparently I don't get invited to enough weddings. Nobody likes me. So yeah, like I'll go into stool testing, or like I'll ask them questions like, hey, how many bowel movements a day? 1, 2, what time of day? Let's look at the Bristol stool chart. What number are you? Are you a smooth criminal, or are you clumpy and kind of dehydrated? How many wipes does it take? Are you taking 10 wipes? That could mean some form of biliary dyskinesis, which means now you're not getting enough bile flow, which means you're not emulsifying fats, which means now you're smearing your stool. When you have backed up gallbladder, that could mean something. So there's a lot that I ask that gives me some tells to where I can be like, all right, maybe I got to refer that out to that person because that's their expertise or specialty. Or maybe that's something I can address on my own by telling them to chew their food more. Or take some apple cider vinegar or an enzyme support or whatever. So the questions, are probing. I think that always helps. I don't know if you're taught that when you're in PT school or chiro school, because I'm obviously not a PT or chiro, but those kind of questions can tell a lot. I've had people tell me, yeah, I take 10 wipes. And a lot of these are like military folks that I work with, where they're either special forces or special operations. And they'll come back and say, yeah, I take about 10 to 12 wipes. And I always have knee pain, so I don't like to squat. And then we go after the cause of the wipes issue. And then, hey, my knee feels great. Like I haven't had knee pain in 3 months, and I had knee pain for 7 years. So I see a lot of that.
Do you ever have, what would you think if someone said they clog toilets?
I'd want to know what they mean by that. Like my first thought would be like, are you like trying to flush everything at once? Or is it because it is a giant stool? Like what's going on? Maybe there's some irritation in the gut that makes them actually go too much. Maybe they eat a lot of food.
So, well, I was just curious because I mean, I would imagine it would be, I'm trying to think of all the types of questions that you would probably get, or type of statements you'd probably get.
If somebody tells me that they clogged their toilet, I'm going to ask them like, well, what do you mean? Is it because you poop and then you throw all your toilet paper in the same one and you try to flush it all at once to conserve water? Because I have seen that. Like sometimes people are not fully aware that like maybe that's not the best way to go about that. And I get it. They want to conserve water, but I have seen that. And then it's like, why don't you just give a courtesy flush?
Right.
And so, but those are like legit things that you'll hear back. But then again, if it's like, hey, yeah, I do actually have quite a bit and it's very runny, it's kind of diarrhea-y, that's a sign right there. Like, and as a PT or a chiro, maybe that's not within your scope or that's not within your comfort zone. And so you're like, you know what? I got this great functional medicine guy. This doc's right across the hall. I'm going to send you over there. But those are all things that I think people should be looking at more. And I think they will, because people are like, physicians and medicine is starting to realize that, again, like it's not just one system, but it's a system of systems that interact with each other.
Yeah. I know that with, at least when I was in school about 10 years ago, so we didn't really go, I don't think we went over stool samples at all. We went over like basic, like what is the digestive system, but like if their schooling's anything like how mine was, we don't know crap about it. That's a play on words.
No pun intended.
But really we don't.
Like, you learn about neuroanatomy and neurophysiology, right? The vagus nerve and all the cranial nerves and all that. You learn about that in undergrad. The vagus nerve, that's pretty important, right? Like, I think we can all agree that we kind of need that to live.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 85-ish, 90-ish% afferent. So what does that tell us? Like, it goes right to the gut. And, that's why the gut's considered like the second brain. And that's why it's an exploding science now, because people are starting to realize that. And so research is looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we know enough yet to be like, yes, your gut should look like this. Cause I think it's just as individualized as a thumbprint, but I think we know enough now to know like, hey, there's something about that does impact a lot of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's tough.
So when, I was looking up a couple things before we went on, based upon what you told me to look up. And I saw that there was one article which kind of just like narrowed it to a very simple, like, I think we need to take probiotics. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe we need diversity. So when it comes to diversity, adding probiotics might actually not be good. And I used to think, maybe a few years back, it's like, yeah, probiotics, everybody should be on them. I can think about one client right now, the whole argument against antibiotics is that it kills off everything in the gut and it's bad for you, blah, blah, blah. I had a client about a year ago or so. He had to have surgery, and then he always had like kind of weirdish bowel movements, but he ended up going on antibiotics. And it's like, you're going to have to, you're having surgery. And so it is what it is. Everything improved with the antibiotics. He like killed off something in his gut is what I would hypothesize. And his bowel movements improved like drastically. He was like, dude, I haven't had a solid poop like this in years. And I took antibiotics. Aren't I supposed to have diarrhea? And I was like, I kind of thought you were. And I went to a few conferences, and there was a lot of presentation on microbiology from various researchers and physicians. And it was really interesting to hear them say that it's diversity, not just a lot of lactobacillus. Like, you can have too much of a good thing. So I think where we're at right now is we know it should be diverse, and it's independent and individualized per person as to what it should look like, which is why I think, we look at something like a biome or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, this is your gut bacteria, but you should be over here. Well, for who? Like, where's your data coming from? If we take probiotics, we could find ourselves getting more backed up. I've seen that where people like, they start to feel worse, and then you take the probiotics away and you just say, hey, have some kimchi or some sauerkraut, and then, just do that. And then they feel better without having to take a probiotic. So I've seen that quite a bit. So I would say not everyone should be on probiotics, but a giant majority of people could definitely benefit from it.
Okay. I think you said earlier too that so everyone's gut profile is unique as a thumbprint. Is that what you said, or did I hear that somewhere else?
No, yeah, it's a fingerprint, right? It's super, super unique. Like, what you have in your gut is going to be based on how you were born, how you were fed. Were you breastfed? Were you formula fed? Were you a cesarean section? Were you a vaginal birth? Were you given antibiotics right away at birth? There's so many factors that go into that. Your biome will be individualized. Were you overly sanitizing things? Do you wipe everything down with like sanitary wipes in the house to make your living room as clean as an operating room. Maybe that's not the best thing for a child, and their microbiome will be different because of it, So it's individualized.
Can they, if if they grew up in like say a sterile environment like that, can someone change their microbiome, or is it kind of they're stuck with that?
From my reading and my understanding, you can maybe change it with a fecal transplant, but you're not going to change it by taking a probiotic. So,
we did talk about this.
Fecal transplant?
Yeah, I think we were talking about it at one point.
Yeah, we were. So again, like even that is beyond my scope. Like I would never tell somebody to do that, but I've had clients actually do it, and it was incredible for them. And that was one of the first clues in my brain where I was like, hey, you have not had any success with any of the mobility work we've done. I've done 1,000,001 pretzels with you. I've done all the mobility wads, smashing and mashing and flossing and all that stuff. And you haven't gotten any better. And I've been working with you 3 times a week for a year and a half. And then turns out they got C. diff, fecal transplant, things get better. And it's like, whoa, you just improved all of your movement and you had a fecal transplant. You had stool put up there and you're squatting cleanly now. So I've seen it really work well for a lot of folks. I was at a toxicology conference earlier in the spring, last spring or whatever, and there was a lot of good data out there showing how it could be used for people that are on the spectrum, and how they've shown that by doing that, like their symptoms basically dropped quite a bit. So that's not my expertise. I just know enough to be like, yeah, I know that there's something going on there. So as for how a fecal transplant's done, that's not where I reside within my job, but I do know I've seen it work with my clients in the past. So,
well, how did it make you feel when all of the work that you guys have tried was improved mainly with a fecal transplant at that point with those people?
Oh, pump me up, man. One, they got better. Like, I don't care. Like if I'm not the cup of tea for somebody to get better and they get better with something else, cool. Like as long as you got better, because that's what I'm here for. 2, it was exciting for me because I was like, oh crap, I've been wrong. And I get really excited when I'm wrong. Like if I'm wrong about something and it's shown to me like, hey, you're wrong. Like you didn't think about it this way. To me, like I get really pumped. I'll go buy books on books on books and read about it for hours on end. And so for me, I was pretty excited because it opened up a whole new world to me and it led me down the path that I'm in now. So I tend not to get upset when I'm wrong. I tend to kind of be like, yeah, awesome. I figured something out and I learned. So.
Yeah. I think, do you remember me talking about getting water from the air in Colorado? You slept on the answer. I was telling Cody this like a couple weeks back. I was like, man, I was trying to stump Bann there at the table for a while. And finally, I thought I got you at the very end because we were talking about we had a couple beers, right? And I was like, man, we got to be hydrated in the morning. Got to drink some water. You're like, you'll never beat ADH. And you said something about osmolarity, I think. And I said, well, what if I eat a bunch of salts and then my osmolarity is higher than the surrounding environment and I actually suck water in at night? And then you had to think about it.
How many beers in were we, man?
I think good 3, maybe 4.
We're having a good time, that's for sure. I remember me being like, you're not being ADH, like you're just gonna like alcohol in that pituitary gland, man.
Yeah.
But I don't remember pulling air or water from the air.
I remember it was the first time that you finally stopped and you didn't have an answer. So you woke up the next morning right before you talked to Brennan. And you told me the answer is no, it's not possible. You can't beat ADH.
I remember going home and getting on my library, and I remember like pulling up PubMed real quick and then like pulling something into my library.
Yeah.
I can get whatever I want, like the full studies. I can get any full study I want from my library from grad school. So I remember pulling something up and being like, yeah, I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah. You can get anything you want. Damn, you're lucky.
Just about, man. I only had like 2 or 3 studies so far where I can't get it. It's not always immediately available, but I can put in a request and my librarian will actually, whoever that is, I've never met them, but they go out and they find it and they send it to me.
Wow.
I've had like journals from like 1957, like scanned in and like the little spiral thing is scanned, like it's scanned, and then they email me the scanned pages.
Wow.
Which you can't highlight anything like on the laptop. I can't use the highlight function because it's just a scan, but it's still cool. Like, yeah, the library is great, man. I get almost anything.
Yeah, you should almost like send them a Christmas card. Like they got up, took that out of the spiral bound book, Xeroxed it, sent it in.
Grad school cost me a lot of cash, so they don't.
So tangenting back to the microbiome, just to kind of reiterate for people, other than just like squatting improvements or knees feeling better, is there any other systemic or common things that people think, holy crap, maybe I should actually think about doing this?
Yeah, the aerobic system. So I think, one, whenever we think about improving movement, if we ever want to improve performance, we have to improve the aerobic system. I think one of the best ways, if not the best way, to improve your range of motion is by improving your aerobic system. Now, when I think of the aerobic system, I don't think of just your lungs and VO2 max. Like, I'm thinking cardiovascular, yes. Cardiopulmonary, yes. Oxidative capacity of your muscles, absolutely. But I'm also thinking mitochondrial function. So if I can essentially improve your mitochondrial function, or actually not improve the function, because you're not necessarily going to repair the damaged ones, but rather protect them, through gut health stuff, better digestion, more antioxidants like from vegetables and all the phytochemicals you get from that. Anything that kind of helps support those systems, that improves mobility in many, many, many cases. Now, again, that's very binary of me to say. There's black and white. I'm trying to always live in the gray, and there's 1,000,001 shades of gray. There's a lot more than just 50. There's 1,000,001. So,
well, I think what was the second movie called? 52? 51?
I don't know. I never saw the first one. I never read the books. I never saw the second one. How was the first one? Did you like the movie?
No, you're not going to get me in this.
Yeah.
I'm quicker than that. No, I've never seen that. Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm the last person on the planet who has not seen Frozen, and I'm damn proud of it.
I've never seen Frozen.
Good. We're a brotherhood. We should start a clan. Be part of something. Not Frozen tribe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll just call it Melted.
Yeah. We'll just have it in the same font and everything. Walking around Disneyland like that.
I do. I love Disneyland, and I'd do that. I'd walk around like that.
Really? You like Disneyland? Which part of the structure you usually park in? Goofy?
I usually just take an Uber because I don't stay at the resort. Uber, so I don't have to deal with the parking. But yeah, I love Disneyland, dude. Who doesn't love Disneyland?
I don't like Disneyland, actually. I'm not a fan.
That's because you're in California, right?
Well, yeah. So yeah, but they used to have the California Pass, which was kind of like, hey, you're around here, you might as well just come. And then now there's actually no California discount. But besides that, I think the last time I went was probably 10 plus years ago, and my goal was to go on Soaring over California.
That was such a good ride.
Right. I've never been on it because I went there and there was a 4-hour wait because I could still not get that fast tracks because I was too late to get the fast tracks. I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, why don't they just make it like you go into a carnival, you don't have to pay to get in, but you pay for each ride or something. Like, I don't want to pay to get in and realize I can't go on a stupid ride.
That's a good point, but that wouldn't make them as much money, and there's enough people out there that want to go, so you're SOL.
I know. I'm totally about boycotting things like that, and you boycott it and they'll change. Just don't just stranglehold their money. That's it.
Yeah, everyone has to boycott it. All the millions of people per day have to boycott it.
I know. Let's start the movement. I'm telling you, the melted movement. We're down.
Too awesome.
Yeah.
Wait, where were we before we went on that?
You're talking about the aerobic system and how there's more than 50 something because we talked about 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, I was just saying that, like, I know that, when I say mitochondrial health, boom, mobility, that's very binary. That's very like this or that. And that's not by any means what I mean by that. There's 1,000,001 shades of gray that we have to live within. But if we improve aerobic capacity, we can essentially improve the autonomics, and that can improve a ton of mobility and ranges of motion. So when I think of the aerobic capacity, again, I don't just think of cardiopulmonary or cardiovascular. I think of oxidative capacity of muscles, so slow twitch and all that, and then as well as mitochondrial, like protection. So how efficient is our electron transport chain? How efficient is the Krebs cycle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot that kind of can go into that. But from what I've seen, when those things kind of improve, I see ranges of motion improve. So
why do you think? I'm trying to think of the mechanical, because I heard energy system and then motion change.
Yeah, so I think and again, this is just what I'm thinking. I don't have evidence, and if there's any listener out there that can shoot me the data or show me where I'm not correct in my thinking, I'd absolutely love that. But if we are in a fight or flight, constant state of fight or flight, we tend to get a little bit more toned up. And so by getting us to get out of fight or flight, we tend to get a little bit less toned up. That would be my best guess on like yoga, for example. Yoga is just relaxing and you breathe and all of a sudden you have more mobility and you do a bunch of like namaste and woosah and, just chilling and you calm down. I mean, in our day and age, we're bombarded by technology and all this stuff that we're never able to calm down. Well, if we can't use sugars or fuel sources in general in the presence of oxygen, think about how less efficient energy production becomes. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden we're burning sugars without the presence of oxygen. Now we have lactate, and lactate has implications on the nervous system. And now all of a sudden we're in fight or flight simply because we can't use oxygen. Even if you have great VO2 and you're still jacked up under the hood for whatever reason. And I think that's where like medicine can use medically supervised hypoxic training to actually improve states of disease, because you're forcing somebody into a position that they have to make new mitochondria, which means they can make more ATP, which means they can essentially become more sensitive to insulin or whatever, and that can help with disease processes and stuff like that. I think of everything in terms of adaptation. Mm-hmm. So I don't think of it as in like high carb diabetes. I don't think of it as in like lipidemia diabetes. I think of it as in the cell is responding to an environment and it's adapting. And I think by us getting people to adapt to being more aerobic, whatever that might be for them, then we help out their mobility. So it could be, hey, dude, stop doing 5 rounds for time of XYZ exercises. And why don't you just go for a 45-minute walk today and see how you feel? And a lot of the times, those people that are 5 rounds for time, it's really, really tough for them to do the walk. So I'm working with a CrossFitter right now who lives in England. So my clients live all over the world. This CrossFitter, she was a runner as well. And she had some stuff that we had to back off training when she hired me. She was going to have elbow surgery because she had bilateral, elbow pain. And getting her to walk 45 minutes was tough. And it was an interesting conversation because it's kind of like, hey, you usually can run for an hour or two straight. And I told you to walk for 45 minutes and that was hard. So you see that? So by getting her to walk more and just calming her system down, allowing her to stop being like in a fight or flight, then her digestion can improve. And if we improve digestion, we can improve inflammation or optimize inflammation, because you don't want to remove inflammation. You need inflammation, but you don't want too much. So again, I think it's all about finding balance. And I guess that's where like there's no answer per client, because humans are complex as all shit. So you have to, look at them from an individual N equals 1. And I think also, side tangent, I think that's where research is super limited, is research tells us like, this was the average, this is the mean, and this is the median, and blah, blah, blah. I want to see the individual differences between every single subject. Between subject 1 and 2, I want to know the difference. Between 1 and 3, I want to know the difference. Between 1 and 4, I want to know the difference. 2 and 4, I want that difference. You're never going to get that. Mm-hmm. Like that costs way too much cash. So I think that's a limiting factor, is that clinicians tend to be like, well, show me the evidence. And it's kind of like, maybe not any evidence. But we see it enough. Like the first pilot didn't have a pilot. Like if we're going to wait around for the FAA to be created, we'd never have pilots. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where, again, side tangent, we may not know every little bit of why, but if we just see it enough times and know that kind of thing works, like, why not use it? So again, coming back to the whole aerobic system, I can't tell you exactly why my client, Alex, for example, he lives in Mexico. We really didn't do a ton of mobility work with him, but we did a lot of lifestyle work where he was like, hey man, like we're going to do a lot of stuff that's going to optimize your systems, nutrition, training. We're going to make you more aerobic. I'm going to make sure that the program specifically makes you more aerobic, but not just the program, all the other stuff, how you think about things, etc. We're going to change your mindset. And he's hitting deeper squats, no pain, full depth, whereas he never could hit full depth. And he's hitting PRs, but it wasn't because we stretched him. Mm-hmm. And again, I think that also came back down to, and it's by no means, I'm not trying to shoot anyone down, but like mobility WOD, Kelly did a great job, like showing people like, hey, you need to own your own shit. You need to take care of yourself. Don't wait to where you're hurt to go to a doctor. So Kelly, I think, did a brilliant job at bringing that to market and showing people they can take care of themselves with simple tools, no less. But also watching people do mobility WOD for 2, 3, 4 years and not actually have noticeable, sustainable, permanent changes, that also had my wheels turning. And then, I kind of shot at FMS earlier, but I did FMS and I did over 12,000 of them. Mm-hmm. And I saw a lot of people score high scores, no asymmetries, no ones, 15 to 21, not even just 14, but like higher numbers. They were getting hurt and having pain. Yet people that are scoring under 14 or had asymmetries, they were getting fitter or more fit, stronger, whatever, no pain or injury. But the thing that I saw that was in common with them, like CrossFitters, for example, because that's really where I did a lot of the FMSs. I would do a lot of them at a CrossFit gym, was they are super typically dialed in with food, right? Whether it's some, macro template or whatever, they typically are a little bit more conscious of, hey, I've got to have vegetables. Hey, I've got to be off inflammatory foods that are typically inflammatory for me, etc. They tend to just have higher quality food, whereas, other athletes didn't always. And I think it's coming back to like Exos has done a great job with that, where, the chefs in their kitchen, it's all organic, grass-fed, stuff like that. So I think it's coming around. But at the time, the 2008, 2009 mark, CrossFitters were super good at eating clean. They were moving like crap. They weren't getting pain. They weren't getting hurt. And it also made me think like, wow, like your FMS score is horrible, but you're getting better and you're eating clean and you're focusing on your recovery and your sleep. It wasn't until probably 3 years ago that I started to like study the nervous system and realize like, wow, actually all of that impacts the nervous system. That might be why they didn't have injuries or get hurt. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where I would define that as they just improved aerobically, because you have, instead of 5 mitochondria, this is just a number, but 5 mitochondria to take on 5 pyruvate molecules or 10 pyruvate molecules for the 5 glucose. Now you have 20 mitochondria and you can take on more glucose, which means you can be more aerobic, which means you're not going to be so stressed. You're not sitting there breathing, being anaerobic because you're constantly unable to use sugar in the presence of oxygen or fat in the presence of oxygen or whatever. So that's where my brain at least went with the idea of aerobic.
So during that period of time when you were after you'd done all those FMSs and kind of before you got into the nervous system, I can only imagine what type of mental torment you put yourself through just to try to find the answers to this.
Yeah, so
because that's a big statement of like, or it's a big observation to realize that people that should be getting hurt aren't getting hurt, and why.
Yeah, my face met the wall quite a bit. It's like head meet wall, bam, and or face meet palm. I was really frustrated for a long time, so I would for years assess people for free because I just wanted to learn stuff. And I would write out their corrective exercise and all these other things. And it's like, why are you not getting better? Like, you're supposed to get better. Like, you're doing a Turkish get-up. You should have more mobility now. I was told you would. And I kept seeing that. And I kept being proved wrong. And, over time, as I learned more and more, I went to DNS and I did the DNS stuff. And that was great. And then I went and did the PRI stuff. And that was awesome. And then I went and did other stuff, and I did the SFMA, and I started to kind of see like the I guess you call it the principles and what did all of these systems do that was the same. And then Poliquin a while back actually told me, look for the common successes. Don't look for the uniqueness. Don't look at what Russia is doing different than China for Olympic lifting. What are they doing the same that you can replicate to make your people better? And that's when I took a step back, because at that moment in time, I was like, mind blown. And I took a step back and I was like, all right, what is DNS doing? What is PRI doing? What is SFMA doing? What is FMS doing? What is everyone doing? What is Mike Boyle doing? And I think what everyone is doing is they're managing the nervous system, the amount of stress they put on it. When you do 7-month oblique, that's not a 400-pound deadlift. That's not taxing on the system as much as a deadlift is. So you're deloading it, but also the first thing that they typically go after is like, hey, how are they breathing? Mm-hmm. PRI talks about it right out the gate. DNS talks about it right out the gate. FMS talked about it. SFMA talked about it. Everyone talked about it. And what does breathing do? Well, breathing is going to impact your nervous system. And that's where I started thinking, hey, that impacts the nervous system and that makes people more mobile. I get you to breathe and your hips stop pinching. Interesting. Was it the breathing or was it like the calming down? Mm-hmm. Then what else can calm down? Is calming down going to come from improving, your aerobic capacity, taking you from a 47-minute 5-mile run to a 40-minute 5-mile run? Maybe. Maybe it's going to come from giving you more selenium, manganese, copper, iron, et cetera. And okay. All those are involved in like Krebs and all that. So, making things more efficient. Mm-hmm. Maybe that impacts the nervous system. So again, I don't think I know the answer to like, hey, this is how it has to be done. But that's where my mind is at right now with what I'm reading and the research I'm doing in grad school and what I'm seeing anecdotally is just if you make people to come full circle more aerobic, they get better.
Mm-hmm. So I think you summed that up actually pretty good there. So I'm actually kind of curious that you said that, so you brought it back to breathing again, because I do have a lot of people that like comment on breathing on this show. And I know the DNS one, they talk about the secondary stabilization as being primary to movement of extremities. But what I'm hearing you say is the nervous system or the calming of the nervous system might be the breathing component that's important, not the secondary. Does that sound, what do you think about that?
Can you elaborate a little bit? I'm actually not following.
So I heard you say the breathing component, it's calming, right? So it helps people be more aerobic, move a little bit better, and so on. The DNS model, so they talk about the depression, the negative pressure of the thoracic cavity, right?
Intrathoracic pressure versus intra-abdominal pressure.
Correct, and the intra-abdominal pressure is secondary because of the depression of the diaphragm. So with that being said, do you think it's the secondary pressure that's improving how people feel with those, or is it actually the mechanics of getting the nervous system to calm?
I think it could also be lymphatic drainage. That's something that people haven't really thought about, I think. I think people are overlooking how important the lymphatic system is. Mm-hmm. This is something that a mentor of mine, Dr. Tom, brought up with me a few years ago. Basically just made mention of the lymph. And I was like, huh? And, basically cisterna chyli is down there. And by doing breathing, you create intra-abdominal pressure and negative pressure up top. So things squish up, right? Mm-hmm. And then we lymph drainage. I think lymph actually has a lot to do with, how we're feeling as well. Like ask anyone that's done like a lymph massage and if they get sick the next day. Right? Or ask people like if they have a massage, do they just feel ill the next day? And then look at, and again, I'm not an autoimmune expert, but multiple I can never say the word MS. We'll just use that. MS and blood-brain barrier permeability and lactate in the lymph. I've read some research on that. And so I think, and again, some of this also comes from Dr. Drobot, who is somebody that taught me a lot of stuff as well. But the lymph system is huge. And I think also by breathing, we get that movement. So I think there's something in there as well that we may be overlooking. And again, that's I'll figure that one out in med school or after med school maybe. But that's, I think something could be in there. I can tell you right now that breathing will help you. I think the calming down of the system can cause you to have less tension. So if we go back to like the diaphragm and how it impacts, like just by breathing, you calm the nervous system down. You know, you take that deep breath and then you exhale and you do that for 2 minutes and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can squat better. It's probably because you relaxed and you toned down the nervous system. So that's something that like Mike Robertson out of iFast, you know, he's out in Indianapolis, Indiana. Yeah. So he's big on like the release and then like the reset, and Exos does the same thing. They talk about, you know, you got to do your active myofascial release and then you do your myofascial stretching or whatever. That's the release stage. And then you basically reactivate what needs to be reactivated. And I think that's where the breathing comes into play first. So like, I'll have you do your breathing, get you to relax, and then I'll have you do 7-month oblique to get you to activate that thing. So I think that's where like, what was it from SMA? It was release, reset, restore, something like that, where it's like the 3 R's.
I thought it was recycle, reduce, reuse, and close the loop.
Yeah. Okay, Captain Planet. Yeah, totally. Yeah, we'll lower pollution, which will also reduce total body toxic load, and that can help a ton too. Which is a whole other thing. Like Dr. Krinian has a lot of cool data out there in terms of him, because he's an environmental medicine doctor. He's got a lot of cool stuff out there with chronic pain and environmental toxins and stuff like that. Anyways,
I thought we were a closed system. We don't got to deal with that external stimulus stuff.
What? No. Are you being sarcastic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't pick up on social cues, as you know, because we talked about why. So
right. Well, that's why I got us on video, to make sure that you saw my eyebrows raised.
I still didn't pick up on it. My client, Josh Furman, he created a rule where he's got to like wave his hands if he's being sarcastic, so I can know he's being sarcastic. And I have another client, Meg, who lives in Alaska, and Meg, she'll send me a little GIF or GIF, the GIF. She'll send me the rainbow one where it's like somebody like holding a rainbow, and when she's being sarcastic, so I can tell. It helps a lot.
Well, good. I should establish that in the beginning. It should have been one of these.
Yes. Yeah. So where were we at again?
External, environmental.
External news.
Well, there was an environmental doctor, internal medicine doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Krinian. Yeah.
I don't know what we were talking about with him though.
Oh no, we were just talking about because you said reduce, reuse, recycle.
Oh right.
And we talked about that. I was like, oh, Dr. Krinian has like cool data on chronic pain and like fibromyalgia and toxicity.
Right. Recycle, reduce, reuse.
Yeah, well, we were talking about like release, reset, reinforce.
Oh yeah.
And so there we go. I'm so sorry to whoever is listening to this. I'm terrible. So I think of like breathing as like the release, right? You're releasing the tension, and then I'm going to go ahead and reset the tension to where I want it to be set, and then I'm going to load it. I'm going to use load to save. So maybe it looks like crocodile breathing for 2 to 3 minutes, get you to calm down, get you to be like woo-saw and namaste and all that. And then you go and do side plank clamshells or 7-month oblique or whatever. And then we go and do some single leg deadlifts to really load it and save it, right? Now the brain is like, all right, that range of motion is good to go. Awesome. We're going to keep it. And I think that's where mobility WOD could be quite beneficial. And maybe that's where people are missing the boat, is they just do the stretches and then they go about their day. But something Kelly Starrett did, which was brilliant, was test, treat, or mobility, mobilize, whatever, and then retest. And the retest was loading, right? Do a back squat. How does it feel? Tough? Do this drill. Okay, now go back squatting. How's it feel? Better? Great. Keep back squatting. Boom. That's the load. Maybe that was why it worked for so many people. So I think that was absolutely brilliant and so masterfully simplified that people were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it was like this, that. I think that's where like DNS, doing the breathing, relaxes you, and then you do something else where it's like you're in 9-month position or whatever, and then you all of a sudden are loaded.
Yeah. Is Kelly still, he must still update all that stuff.
I don't know. I haven't looked at Mobility Wad in like 3 years.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't heard much from him for a while, but his website looks good. I think it's a membership site now, I think.
Good for him.
Was there anything else that you would like to cover before we stop here?
No, I mean, I think we went on some rants and talked about Dragon Ball Z quite a bit. I'm not linear in my thoughts. As anyone that ever listens to me speak, I don't ever speak linearly. My brain doesn't work that way. I think of many different connections, and I like to connect the dots like that. But if anyone ever has data or insight or anything that can show me where I might be flawed in my thinking, just email me. I'm absolutely open to dialogue and conversation and learning because I don't know it all. Mm-hmm. I definitely have a lot of questions. And if there's ever something that can help me answer more questions, I'm 100% open to being wrong and figuring more things out and just trying to improve how I think. So,
well, if someone is going to email you, I guess number one, what is your email? And second, what is the sign that they're being sarcastic or not that they should put in there?
Rainbow. Or rainbow, because that would be like the most sarcastic emoji you can give.
I think the dancing girl in red's pretty damn sarcastic.
The dancing girl?
Yeah, she goes like this, like she's like this, like dancing. I don't know what it means. Fiesta?
Oh, to me that just means that she's doing a salsa dance or, merengue or bachata or something like that.
She's definitely bachating.
Maybe. I studied dance, so to me, like my brain was like, oh yeah, we would just be doing salsa. No, my email is Michael Bann. Michael Bann at OPEX Fit. So OPEX Fit as in fitness.com. So Michael Bann at OPEXFit.com.
Okay. What's your Instagram? I know you're pretty active on there.
Oh yeah. It's coach_Michael_Bann. Pretty simple.
Okay. And, if people wanted to be coached by you, what's the process on that?
They could email me, and when they email me, I'll put them in touch with my assistant who basically handles my consultation schedules and all that. He would talk to them for like 5 quick minutes just to get their information, and then he would send them a link which lets them auto schedule into my calendar. So they'll have access to my schedule, and they can schedule at their convenience after they talk to Angel for about 5 minutes. So they just have to email me.
Is it Angel or Angel?
It's Angel because I would not know how to pronounce the other one.
I like you didn't even try. Okay, well, cool. Well, this was fun. I'm glad we got it rolling. So,
yeah, man. Are you going to be out at Dr. Snell's thing next month?
Yeah, in LA, I'm going to go.
Sweet, I'll be there.
Oh, good. Yeah. I wonder who else is going to be there. I think
Ramos, Jeff Barron better be there. If Jeff's not, I'm going to yell at him and make him go.
I think Snell's going to be there.
It's his, hopefully.
Yeah, I think Cody's going to be there.
Just move away then? I thought he just moved.
He did move, but so before he left, because I was I was within a mile of his house really. So I was like, okay, so we're not going to see each other much. So let's. We need to coordinate seminars. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he was going to do that one. So
cool.
But yeah, so good. I'll see you out there then. June 20. Well, this podcast will not be up. I think this is going to go up in mid-July.
Sweet. I'll be in Bozeman, Montana for a conference.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
Right on. So that was Coach Michael Bann. You can reach him at mainly he goes on Instagram. So it's at coach_Michael _Bann with 2 N's. I didn't know. I always wondered how the correct way of spelling Michael is, the A before the E or the E before the A. And it's Hael. So I always spell it wrong. It sounds different to me. Anyways, if you're looking for the show notes on this, go to p2sportscare.com, look up Michael Bann, and you'll find those in the search function. So just go through page 1 and just go through and find the actual correlated thing that pops up. We have a pretty comprehensive search function, and that is because we have probably over 250 pages on the site right now. So rather than having them listed, I think we got to go to the search function. If you're a clinician and you've wondered how the hell I put out all this content, which I get, it's really common for people to ask me that. I'm planning on creating some ways for you guys to implement this stuff in your practice, because I was thinking about it recently as I did a presentation at one of the local schools for chiropractic. There's really great clinicians that are going to come out of there, but it's challenging to get the public to understand what we know and don't know. So to get them to go to the right place for the right thing that they're experiencing, we need to better educate them. And the only way to do that is to get our students, as well as young doctors, and probably seasoned ones too, to develop content. It all starts with content. And if you search random topics, like if you look up sports hernia, where you're at on Google, I'll probably pop up top 5. And it's because we created content first, text, video, and audio. So if you guys are looking to learn how to do that, I do have something I've been working on, which is not 100% done yet, but it's going to be done soon, is kind of a progression of how I create my content for everyone to see in the process. And it's not overwhelming, just to let you know. When you put the right systems in place and you enjoy what you're actually doing and are interested in what you're writing, it's actually really fun. And I've had some friends that said, well, I don't have time to write. Sure, great. So you can transcribe it. No problem with that. Just speak to the microphone. You're on your phone anyways, right? So if you're looking, the current URL to get onto an email list where you're going to get information about creating content, as well as some products or digital instructional products that I'm going to have for you, go on to p2sportscare.com/students. That's plural. So p2sportscare.com/students will take you to an email drip of the things that I get asked the most from people under 1 year of practice. So that we'll go into things like pricing, sales, how to present yourself, how to not get stuck in unethical situations, how to do YouTube, how to write content, how to do podcasts, things like that. So it's a ton of stuff that I always attempt to not. I don't want to apologize for putting people on drip campaigns with this, because it automates it and it makes it easy for me, because I literally wake up and have 2 emails sometimes every day, at least 5 emails a week from people asking questions of not just these topics, but different ones. I just can't answer them all. So I'd rather just put the best content forward, have everyone go through that drip. If you have further questions, feel free to contact me. I do want to answer questions, but some of those basic things, I would love for you guys to get them through the best forum for everybody possible, not just me. So lastly, if you have not gone to review this, I would love for you to do that. It helps me provide you guys the content that you want to hear about. If you have a topic that you want me to interview someone about, tell me their name, tell me how to contact them. And if you want me to create some content for a common question that you get from your patients, why does the neck pain relate to hand numbness? Why does the back correlate to sciatica? Why is the hip correlate to knee pain? Things of this nature. Like, they're things that I get all the time, so I would love to create content that we can all share. Thanks for listening in, and I will speak with you guys next week.